Hi, I'm Tosin. Today I will talk about Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton was born in 1821. He was born in a small village. The village was in a remote area. It was located in the mountainous region of eastern France. Vuitton was not from a rich family. His father was running a farm in the village. Vuitton grew up chasing animals on the farm. In his spare time, he always helped his father in the little zoo. He had a happy childhood before 10 years old. His mother was working in a mill near his father's farm. Vuitton loved his mother very much. His parents worked very hard every day, from morning to night, to earn a living. But they still earned very little. When they felt uncomfortable, they didn't have money to go to see a good doctor. One day, his mother became very sick. No one knew what the disease was, and they couldn't afford to send her to the hospital in the town. Finally, his mother died when he was only 10 years old. Little Vuitton was heartbroken. His happy world was destroyed. He cried every day. However, his father soon remarried, but it didn't bring him happiness again. Vuitton didn't like his stepmother because his stepmother was strict with him and she didn't like him either. Little Vuitton couldn't feel any love from his stepmother. He cried every day too. Living in such an unhappy environment, little Vuitton was stressed at home. He hated his boring and sad life, and he realized that he had depression. Vuitton wanted to change the environment. He wanted to become happy again. He wrote a letter to his father, and he put the letter under his father's pillow. On an early morning, he left home without telling anybody. At the time, he was only 13 years old. He dropped out of school too. As soon as he left home, he tried his best to run as fast as he could because he didn't want to be caught by his father. He didn't want to come back to that sad place anymore. However, little Vuitton suddenly realized that he did not bring any money, so he planned to travel to Paris on foot. During his journey, Vuitton was working while heading to Paris. He gained a lot of working experience. He became a real man. He was able to support himself. Though life was still hard for him, little Vuitton was satisfied. Finally, he arrived in the city in 1837. At the time, he was already 16 years old. It took him 3 years to walk to Paris. He walked 450 kilometers from his village to the city. Paris was already a huge city at the time. He wanted to fulfill his dream here. What was his dream? His dream was to become a trunk maker. He began his apprenticeship with the trunk maker first. Vuitton planned to learn while working again. Vuitton soon developed a reputation as a skilled craftsman. More and more French nobilities and rich men became his customers. In 1853, he had been appointed by the French Empress to be her official trunk maker. He suddenly became famous. 1 year later, Vuitton married his wife. Vuitton stayed at the same workshop for 17 years. He was patient enough to learn as much as he could. After the marriage, he soon left the workshop where he worked. Vuitton was so grateful to his boss. His boss taught Vuitton many necessary skills to make good trunks. He had been sharpening his skills for 17 years from his boss. He was confident that he could handle his business. That same year, he opened his workshop in Paris. His workshop was in a business area. It was located in the city center. There were many fashion houses and jewelry firms in this place. The workshop became both the family home and the cradle of the company. In 1858, he introduced a rectangular shaped trunk. This trunk had a flat lid. Traditionally, trunks had dome shaped tops. This kind of shape allowed rain and mud to roll off. That's because at the time, luggage was transported on the backs of stagecoaches. However, as the society developed rapidly, many people started to take the train and the ocean liner. Therefore, he produced a flat lid for easier stacking and shipping. What's more, since the leather was heavy and it often cracked, he replaced it with lightweight wood. The wood was covered in a waterproof fabric. It was also stain resistant. You could say that this was almost a perfect trunk at the time. Many customers came to ask Vuitton to make this trunk for them. There was a high demand for the flat lid trunk. People started to queue from the very early morning in his shop. The early success of Louis Vuitton meant that he had to expand his business. Vuitton decided to move his workshop to a larger space in a village northwest of Paris. The new location was on the famous Seine River. In 1859, 5 years after Vuitton opened his small workshop, he moved his business to another new place in Paris, a much bigger workshop. The new workshop was near a railway line, which meant that it was convenient to deliver the finished products to different cities. Customers could get their trunks more easily. It was also very convenient for delivering raw materials, so the workshop could make trunks more easily too, and therefore Vuitton had more customers. At the time of its opening, the humble workshop started with 20 employees. The workshop was also a dream house. Vuitton, his wife, and his son lived together in a room above the workshop. Their home was small but tidy and warm. This was an important place for the whole family. Unfortunately, the company suffered several setbacks during the Franco-Prussian War. In 1870, the war paralyzed travel. Since fewer and fewer people went to travel, the demand for luggage reduced gradually. Moreover, the workshop was ransacked. Its equipment was stolen or destroyed after the war in 1871. However, Vuitton established his business and opened a new shop in Paris. The new shop was in a super good location. It was close to the Louvre. He revived his business again. See, nothing could beat this strong man. In his lifetime, he never gave up anything worthwhile. One of the greatest products ever produced by Vuitton was a bat trunk. It was for a French sailor. The bat trunk was made in 1874. It was a trunk that could convert into a bed so that people could sleep on the trunk. They didn't even need to book a hotel. The trunk saved a lot. The bat trunk was revolutionary. It had a huge and flat top. It was more transportable and stackable compared to rounded top trunks. Later, Vuitton expanded his business outside of France in 1885. Vuitton opened a new shop in London. At the time, rich people carried different types of trunks when they went to travel. Unfortunately, these trunks often attracted burglars. Therefore, the following year, in 1886, Vuitton and his son invented a new lock system. This system was so effective. It is still used today. Vuitton's son was so confident about the lock. He wanted to challenge the famous American magician Harry Houdini. Houdini was a famous escape artist. Vuitton's son wanted to see if he could escape from a locked Vuitton trunk. However, the magician did not take up the challenge. Louis Vuitton died in 1892 at the age of 70. The brand's amazing stories continue after his death. Later, his son became the leader of the company. 1 year later, he exhibited Louis Vuitton's luggage at the Chicago World's Fair. He introduced the brand to the American market and the world. Louis Vuitton got a lot of new orders because of this fair. Not long after, Louis Vuitton became a famous brand in the world. More and more workshops started to make fake Louis Vuitton. This made the sales of the real Louis Vuitton less. Vuitton's son was angry. He wanted to stop the imitators. Therefore, he created the famous LV monogram. The pattern of the LV monogram made its products hard to copy. By the 20th century, having Louis Vuitton was the same as having a luxury lifestyle. Louis Vuitton's grandson managed the company later. The company expanded its products to include luxury leather goods. Later, under Henry Recamier's management, the brand was no longer a family-run business. It went public. Recamier was a self-made steel tycoon. He was super rich and he was good at marketing. Louis Vuitton became a global brand. It has stores around the world. Within 10 years, Louis Vuitton opened over 100 stores globally. 3 years later, Recamier announced the merger of the company with Moet Hennessy. That was a French champagne producer. Together, they created LVMH. By the 21st century, LVMH became the largest luxury products company in the world. It frequently topped the list of the world's most valuable fashion brands.